Hello, good morning. Today I'm going to read from Living Clean. The chapter is Getting Out of Our Own Way. This is for people who are struggling with addiction, and I hope it finds you. And if you're not able to read very well, then you can just sit and listen to me read it for you. So, getting out of our own way. So much of our experience is a result of our perception. We may feel very grounded even though the outside circumstances of our lives are in flux. There are also times when everything looks fine, but we feel like we're coming undone. We can come through letdowns and redirections and see that we are still succeeding and progressing in our lives. Or we can feel like a failure even when everything is actually going along just fine. Perhaps what we perceive as good or bad is simply an event. We make it good or bad by our attitude toward it and our response to it. We can turn a simple setback into a drama that lasts forever and is everyone else's fault. We get through difficulty much more quickly if we simply accept it and keep moving. Letting go gets easier when we learn not to hold on so tightly. It may be that the sky is not the limit for us. There may be limitations set by our lives or circumstances that make some of our choices for us. More often, we are held back by barriers we put in our own way. We get so accustomed to thinking of ourselves in particular ways that it's hard to imagine otherwise. We can be brutal to ourselves. Giving ourselves a break is one of the most important skills we gain in recovery, and it is crucial to our ability to change. It's hard to learn something new if we can't allow ourselves to be imperfect. Our shortcomings and defects keep us from being able to act in our own best interest. Some of the hardest things to get free of may be our own beliefs about ourselves and our limitations. Obstacles give us a chance to examine our willingness. Some of us fight our way to a goal despite physical disabilities, criminal records, or other hurdles. The obstacles in our path can make us more committed to our goals. We find a way to do the impossible. At other times, barriers drive us to think creatively and to look in other directions for where we can best use our energies. How often we succeed or fail is not the measure of our program. Our setbacks don't have the power to define us. Failure is experience, strength and hope in disguise. It is incredibly important to learn the difference between failing at something and being a failure. When we are honest, we begin to take responsibility for our part. Remorse can fuel a new willingness to change. Failure, just like success, has an important role to play in our lives, taking us places we would never choose to go. It can free us to pursue new things and to seek even broader horizons. Sometimes what we experience as failure is actually a redirection. We can get so focused that it takes a serious push to change our course. After getting through a hard time clean, a member said, "I needed to fail. I was completely out of control because I thought I was completely in control. I had confused outside success with internal growth and recovery. We respond to our own fear by getting more controlling and create more problems as a result. Often when we are deeply challenged in one area of our lives, other areas start to suffer. When things get difficult, it never seems like just one thing goes wrong. We start using old behaviours again, even though we know or we once knew that they don't work. Unmanageability feeds on itself. A hard lesson in humility reminds us that we never graduate. When we stop practicing the basics, we are in trouble. It takes courage to put ourselves on the line. If the risks we are taking are real, then certainly sometimes we will lose. If we don't occasionally fall short, it probably means we are setting the bar too low. We learn through our mistakes, and the experience can strengthen our faith and resolve. Most importantly, we don't have to do it alone. As we accept that we will be okay, even when we are disappointed, we start to feel a little more comfortable with the idea of taking risks. We learn to listen to our instincts and to start to move with the rhythm of our lives. We can respond to changes as they happen without being distracted by our desire to judge or explain them. We set goals for ourselves and move toward them a day at a time, an inch at a time, knowing that when we're doing the right things tend to happen, even if they're not what we anticipate. We have a tendency to act as if our progress doesn't count until we have arrived at our goals. Learning to keep going through setbacks or hard times allows us to continue moving forward even when things are not going our way. Some of us never get where we meant to go, and it does not mean there is anything wrong with our recovery. We are not staying clean for the rewards, though staying clean can be very rewarding. Whatever gifts we do or do not receive, we do well to remember that there is nothing wrong today that a case of withdrawal won't make worse. We all experience loss and hardship at some point in our recovery, and if we are not willing to accept that as part of the process, our desire for success can turn insidiously into a reservation. If we are ashamed by the difficulty we are going through or feel that we cannot be honest about our struggles, our relationship to the fellowship will suffer no matter how much clean time we have. Many of us have expectations that if we do our recovery right, there will be no difficulty or pain and we will get everything that we want. These expectations can be lethal. We may want to believe that if we work a good enough program, we won't ever lose, when in fact, working a program helps us keep going no matter what. Some of us experience only small losses, while others endure tragedy, sometimes over and over. Moving forward isn't easy, but it's what we do. We can't set limits or time frames around our feelings. I needed to be brutally honest about how I felt, said a member. Even when it made my stomach hurt, I was sad, angry, afraid, and jealous of others who had already succeeded. We don't need to be told how to experience our feelings, but it's nice to know we are loved and supported through them. Once we go through a hard time clean, we know we can get through difficulty and be alright. We start to believe in our own resilience and to trust our recovery. We find faith and strength inside ourselves that cannot be taken away unless we give it away. If we have a history of failure, it may be hard for us to believe that success is a possibility. Our past experience may not always be a good guide. Just as the second step taught us that insanity is doing the same things and expecting different results, sometimes we do different things and expect the same results. Even though we are not doing what we always did, we still expect to get what we always got. We learn that things really can change for us if we are willing. If we want something we never had, we will need to try some things we have never tried and have some faith. When we change our actions, beliefs and motives, our lives change, but not always the way we think they will. The open-mindedness we practice in our recovery gives us the ability to be flexible when things change in ways we hadn't expected. I've learned to be open-minded about all kinds of things, said a member, including what makes me happy. We may be free for a long time before we recognise it. We are careful not to hold one another back or discourage one another from trying to follow our dreams. After many years of sponsorship, one member said, I finally realised I wasn't going to keep anyone from doing what they really wanted to do. The question was whether they were going to be comfortable sharing honestly with me about it. When I set demands or limitations, I became one more thing for my sponsees to work around. We help each other to see clearly what we may be getting ourselves into, but we also listen for our own guidance. The real issue may not be our ultimate failure or success, but our faith in the process, another addict shared. I had years clean when everything fell apart, marriage, job, finances, and my relationship with my kids. People reminded me that every clean day was a successful day. That didn't seem good enough anymore. I thought they were putting me down, but I actually was successfully working an NA program. I needed a priority adjustment. I'm still putting things back together, but today I am happier and more fulfilled. We start to see that big changes in our lives are not the end of the world, just the end of a phase or an experiment. A member observed, I thought no matter what meant don't use even if there's an earthquake. but I am learning it also means keep going even when you don't feel like it. Continuing to do as we were taught, even when the sky is falling, doesn't just get us through. When we experience hardship, we can get angry and resistant. It can be hard to sit through a meeting or hear what anyone else has to say. We think we can just put our heads down and bull through it. But that tends to make things worse. It's like saying, I'm just going to run on my own will until I get through this hard time. Then I'll turn it back over. When we keep coming to meetings, even with our attitude, we hear the message in spite of ourselves. We show up and the message finds us whether we are looking for it or not. We learn from the experience and we grow. We often find that the new place we are in as a result is better than what we had resisted letting go. Here we go, that's the end of that chapter. This is the Living Clean book. If you want to order it online, I know it's probably backwards on the screen, but you can get an idea what the cover looks like, so go ahead and order one and you can read it. And yeah, I'll leave it there. That's lovely. Thanks for listening.